Alright, here we go. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Legends, Known Classics. This is episode number 3369, episode number 3263. Two trades here who have two major things in common. Number one, both trades contain stuff written by Mark Waid, and also both feature Superman. Yep. First one being Superman Action Comics Phantoms. Yes, released part of the Superstar Initiative. And this book collects the A stories, yes, the A stories for 1070 to 1081. I say the A stories because there's a Supergirl backup feature in here. Yeah, it's a 12-part feature. Yes, the Superstar Initiative probably is the longest feature so far. Of course, basically, like, gnawing out this thing called weekly, but not immediately per se, because for some weird reason, do not know why DC did this for, the very next story is written by John Ridley. Which, yeah, superstar writers, and I am one of those people who say John Ridley is not a superstar writer. Do I think Waid is? Yes. Yes, I do think so. So, this is basically all. Of course, this book, the story here is noteworthy for the first in-continuity appearance that's not related to lead superheroes of Mon-El. Yep. First proper appearance of Mon-El post-continuity shift. Of course, Mark Waid is the writer. Artwork by Clayton Henry and Michael Schaefer. The cover is done by Clayton Henry and Talman Mori. So, and of course, they have a setting for this 12-part story. It says, in the 52 days between absolute power and the Battle of the Watchtower, yes, this 12-part story takes place between absolute power and what happened all in number one. Apparently 52 days, so about 3 months. So this is basically what Superman was like. Okay, I do appreciate that. So they have this thing on display like in the Forest of Solitude. So of course the new Forest of Solitude, because the original was destroyed. And of course the Phantom Projector breaks and people escape the Phantom Zone. Doubleshot take a picture of Superman hanging upside down. And then of course basically he has to have this glob thing escaping the Phantom Zone. And they of course bring up the gold ice, aka the gold kryptonite. Actually, it was Jimmy got it, and of course I was able to stop him. Yeah, I think it's seeing Kryptonite is what he's saying, or Supergirl's there. And then we see, joining the fortress is Superman's son John, his wife Lois, Crypto, Natasha Irons, Condor Ken Superboy, and the King Kong Superman of China. And all about the Bada City Candor. Yeah, and apparently, like, something with absolute power happened. Of course, the Phantom Projector was broken. And then he has to go to the Phantom Zone. Yep, of the Phantom Zone, where he fights other criminals, catches them, and then we see Mon-El with there's the Phantom King, Jack Sawyer, and the original three for the movie, which they're not in the Phantom Zone, they're actually off in space. And of course you have the Superman playing baseball, obviously, which I thought was kind of funny. And Superman fights a giant spider in the Phantom Zone, and then he's rescued by the Phantom King. Except it's not the Phantom King, it's actually Mon-El in disguise. Yeah, basically he actually, of course, then, this is something interesting though, in 1072, they actually bring in the kind of classic origin story for Mon-El. Well, I think of lead poisoning, and he had to go to the Phantom Zone, and here's something, Superboy, something Waid will explore not long after this. Yeah, I appreciate that Waid is bringing some Silver Age stuff into this. Then we see the actual Phantom King, who is in chains, so where he gets out later somehow. And then Superboy and Keenan go to the Fort Solitude. Stuff is missing. Also, for some weird reason, the fortress is drawn like the way it was, I think, in the Superman movies. Yes, for some reason it's drawn like this for some reason. I'm not sure why. Like, everything is gone, then everything is magically back. And the other stuff he has basically on display here, he has basically we have the Superman mobile, we have a robot, we have a Superman robot. Let's see. I think that's Krypto's doghouse, a statue of the Dominators. Apparently that's Virgil Kleenex right here in the corner. A couple of bird people. We even see briefly Starro here in the background, which is interesting. Oh, and get this. The Legion of Superheroes rocket. Yes. Didn't expect to see that, but good on the artist for including that stuff, which is amazing. And they're on the ship here in the Phantom Zone. And apparently the Phantom King is working for this creature here. And then you can explain how the origin a little bit of the Phantom Zone projector was built by, which still kept in canon all these years. It was built by Jor-El, the prison Krypton's criminals. And yeah, and of course these robots wake up. Of course, they don't recognize the fact this is actually just. And of course, we fight the Phantom King, which is really cool. The fact he does this, and then Superman goes back in time to Krypton before it was destroyed. Yep, about halfway through the story, he goes back to Krypton, and good on him for basically using his cape to cover up the S symbol. Because here's kind of the thing: if people saw him wearing that, people are like, why are you wearing the House of L symbol on your chest? And he, of course, not used to the atmosphere per se because he can't fly. And there's more like some barbarians in the actual Phantom Zone itself, which is really cool. And then you have Superman put on this disguise here, and he goes to visit the House of L. What he runs into, as soon as he opens the person opens the door, is his biological mother, Laura L, and baby Kyle L. And of course, basically, Jor-El is like, yeah. Well, I do appreciate, though, that Jor-El himself is basically depicted here in one of his other outfits he's worn over the years. And like, oh yeah, the Science Council being idiots. Which that's been typical for all origins of Superman, where, yeah, and then we have stuff being built here. We have this new character, Roseanne. Where basically he's a guy who's jealous of the success of Superman, of the House of L, which has him arrested. And of course Cal is like, declare hardware criminal is absurd. Sure, he can't be punished really for that. And then of course they meet with the council, which they reject everything. And when they show the Science Council, this is interesting. They depict them how they were in the movies. Yes, these floating heads. Which is interesting. Now, I'm not talking about the Man of Steel. I'm talking about the Christopher Donner movies. The Christopher Reeve movies. Yeah, I have no idea why in the world picked like this for it, but I'm guessing the reason why, this is my personal theory, of why in the world they'd pick them like this, because Mark Waid is a big fan of the Christopher Reeve movies, so he had picked like that. Oh, and Cal is dropped out with Kira. So Bora will be perfectly fine. And then he eventually does go back to present day after being in the past for about 3 issues. Keenan's basically just having some fun, of course. Then we have where they break into a vault, and of course Superman breaks into stuff. And it's like I'm looking for the Phantom Zone for first test prisoner. There's no Karazhan in the Krypton globe. Who are you really? I'm from the future. Roseanne, time traveler. Preposterous. Is it? All the secrets of Krypton history has been unlocked. It can't be imagined. Hear me. Jor-El is the man that you believe him to be. He's right to see his family, his child. I've seen it. He can't. But he cannot. He cannot. He has no chance if you keep discovering for yourself. You are clearly a proud man, and proud man he learned to write the legacy across the stars. I promise you, if you continue your thoughts and process, your legacy could be like a black pitch. And then he's basically shut back. But he's able to get out of that problem. And then after basically being the past for about 3 issues, then we see the Justice League Watchtower, where here we have Martian Manhunter wearing his new 52 costume, despite the fact in the Justice League comic book he's wearing a different costume. Interesting. And we see, I think that's supposed to be, I'm looking at, I think that's Wally before he got his costume change. We saw Mr. Terrific, yes. And there's stuff with Mon-El in here. Overmind, and they get to the Phantom Zone. There's more. Superman basically beat up a giant monster. Of course, you have our super team basically figure out what to do with the Phantom, perhaps to release them. And then we meet up with who's story Kal-El. Yeah, and of course meets up with this woman who is Brazon. Huh. What's your father Ozon? Yep. The daughter of the man he met in the past. Interesting. Just by sheer coincidence. And of course, she acts very similarly to her father. Not exactly a carbon copy, but yeah, all about releasing Kryptonian prisoners. And the fact he's got exiled from his own people. Shows the fact that basically the Kryptonian Science Council have not changed in the years they've been in the zone. And then the Phantom Zone escapees, and we have where I think this is a flashback where Superman is back wearing the black suit like he was during Absolute Power. Of course, he first wore the suit during the reign of Superman. Mon-El is basically phasing. Of course, you have Zatanna, Dr. Fate, Firestorm. Everybody basically chiming about the people who fight escapees, Phantom Zone, and Sim puts back his costume back on to bring up all of them and get basically new Phantom Zone projector. And we see appearance by Power Girl. We see more Titans. We see Dr. Light. Yep. And of course they've gone on a planet. Yep. They have escaped the planet. And of course the Metamorpho here, and then we have where on Earth's moon. He's like, Kira Zor-El, you representative here, give us one reason as you should be an excellent cousin. For the crime of releasing his owners on a red sun world so they wouldn't die. Those are Cal's actions. I've done the same, and you should have known that his solution didn't work. The Zone's pillaging the galaxy. Now the zone is stabilized, I'm here to ask you to reclaim them. The prison no longer responsibility. What? How you figure jailbreak? How you figure? A jailbreak. You can't claim jurisdiction over what suits you. Council does not take orders from an L. Look, Cal and the rest of us are the best losers. And of course, yep. It's like taking advancement. And he's just like, and after the conversation, he's like, getting attention out of you people is trying to steer a battleship. So enjoy your time alone. I'm going to try to help. And of course, fight more Kryptonians to get the Phantom Zone. And of course, Aquaman help out too, and then we see Jack Sawyer like, oh, that's a blast in the past. I know he appeared on Superman animated series. Interesting to hear him in here. So yeah, and then of course it's over the Phantom King. It shows up in the last story here. Yep. And somehow, some way, the Phantom King is known to Martian Manhunter. And of course, everybody's freed, and the Phantom Director was everybody there, more stabilized prison, and also the possibility of parole. Yep. And then we see, look like someone in the Phantom, someone with an S. And it turns out the person there is actually just Mon-El. But it says, thanks to Action Comics Weekly, Bring back here for next month, X-Pac Story. Magi Looms in January 2025. Yeah, weekly. Yeah, these will be released, of course, in a few months. And, of course, doing it again with another Superboy story. This was really good. I get this book a 10 out of 10. Oh, also, I got to talk about this back cover here. Yes, that's a nod to the movies. Also, Green Lantern does not appear in this story. Batman does. Damian does not. Wonder Woman does not either, but really good stuff here. Next up we have is Batman Supergirl's Finest, Total Eclipse. This collects issues 31-34 of the series, plus Green Lantern / Green Arrow World's Finest Special. I'm like, interesting. 4 issues this time instead of 6. Well, there's a reason, because 35 starts the crossover with Just Like Unlimited. Mark Waid and Jeremy Adams. I think Jeremy Adams does the special with Andrea Guerin, Frank Gulan, Lucas Meyer, and Travis Mercer. Oh, in case you're curious, though, of people working on these 2 books here, who have I personally met at Comic-Con? I have only met Mark Waid. Yep, just Mark Waid. Not actually, this one here, I met Jeremy Adams. I'm just here. He's a cool guy. So basically, as Sal suggests, it's basically, and of course, we see the Justice League satellite, which for some reason looks kind of run down. Yeah, that's the original satellite that debuted in the 70s. And people here are just Green Lantern, Longer Demand, Atom, Black Canary, just basically the classic Justice League. And of course, because that's by Eclipso, and it's mostly put an Eclipse story set in the past. That's mostly the good justice. Oh, I love the fact we have Batman around capturing Polka Dot Man, the Thinker. I couldn't tell who else was there, but yeah, everybody's like getting possessed by Eclipso, and everybody's trying to fight the people who are possessed by Eclipso. And then we have appearance by the JSA. Really cool to featured here. Oh, and Dan Mora himself just does the covers. Yeah, this is the first trade where it collects for the issues of this run where Dan Mora does not do the interiors. These 4 issues are not drawn by him, just the covers. The interiors done by many different artists. It's a lot of fun, this book. Of course, the appearance here by the Spectre in his classic look. You have Superman get possessed here. Yeah, the whole thing is like I said, basically a fight against Eclipso, and also team up with the JSA, which I thought that was really cool. The fact they did this, and we also have Batgirl show up here too, and any Batgirl, Barbara Gordon in her original costume. I'm like, that is interesting. Which makes, for this costume, this comic, the first this comic has appeared post Flashpoint. Yes. Because what's she wearing nowadays? Purple costume. Yep. After the 4 issues are wrapped up, of course. And it seems like Jimmy was going to fall for Batgirl, but not go anywhere. And then we have a split story here first with Green to Green Arrow. Interesting, we have Jimmy Adams writing this book here because it's just basically the road trip thing between these two, fighting out some terrorists. But it's not the only story in here, which I found to be really good. And of course, Oliver Queen in his classic Green Arrow outfit designed frame back in 1970s by the late Neil Adams. But that's the first half of special. Second half focus on Green Lantern and the Flash, which really cool the fact they did this for these two because Jeremy Adams ran both. Really cool to do that, and it's just a team-up story here between Barry and Hal. The take on it looks like a version of this stroke, and it says, and apparently it's like this flashback leads into New Teen Titans number 2. Interesting. But this book is awesome. Give it a 10 out of 10. Okay, so that's pretty much a particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up is Case Closed. Okay, next video. Bye.